When it comes to unleashing torrents of flame, frost, and lightning against hordes of demons, few do it better than the Sorcerer in Diablo 4. They have ultimate control over elemental magic, and they use it to tear apart enemies while ensnaring others. But as with every high-powered caster, you will quickly die if you don't take advantage of the powerful defensive spells at your disposal. But before we get into all of that, we need to learn about the strengths and weaknesses of Sorcerers. So 1, Sorcerers are masters at area of effect damage and vaporizing large groups of enemies with ease. They are great at screen-wide clear. They're masters of crowd control and locking down enemies, so if you need somebody on that duty, the Sorcerer fits the bill perfectly. They also have an incredibly strong movement toolkit, so they're very good at getting out of danger. But as with everything, we do have some weaknesses we need to talk about. So the Sorc does suffer from a few key deficiencies. 1, they're a mana hog. The Sorcerer uses mana to fuel their attacks, and because of this, if you're out of mana, you're going to have a very hard time dealing damage and staying alive, because let's face it, basic skills just don't cut the mustard. So that's something you're going to have to keep an eye on. 2, they're incredibly squishy, especially in close quarters combat. So again, you're going to want to make sure that you balance out your defensive skills with your offensive skills. A dead Sorcerer is useful to no one. Now, because the Sorc is so dependent on crowd control and sort of like damage multipliers, they do have a hard time with champions and bosses who are immune to those effects. So you need to have somebody that's going to either help prop you up, or you're just going to sit there and slowly whittle away on the enemy. So that's something to keep note of as well. So now that we have a handle on what makes the Sorcerer, let's shift gears and talk about what makes them truly unique, and that's going to be the enchantment system. So enchantments are specific to the Sorcerer. With this system, you can take skills and then slot them into enchantment slots. And in turn, these will grant powerful passive effects, but there are some stipulations. So 1, you do have to have at least 1 skill point in this skill. So the skill has to be unlocked for you to put it into an enchantment slot. You can't use ultimate skills. A skill's rank, upgrade traits, and enhancements will carry over into the slot. So whatever you upgrade on your skill tree will also be something that applies there. And then you can swap these slots at any time. You don't have to like slot it and then it's stuck in there forever. You can swap these out, figure out the one that best fits you and your playstyle, and then go with that. Now, here's a few examples of how this thing works, right? So if you slot the Firebolt skill, then your attacks are going to burn enemies over 8 seconds. If you put in Ice Shards, then Ice Shards will automatically form and fly towards frozen enemies. If you put in a Hydra, anytime a burning enemy is killed, a Hydra head will spawn from their corpse. So there's a lot you can see here. I mean, these things will help craft a build that takes advantage of certain elements. So if you want to be a fire sorcerer, then you want to make sure to take advantage of the fire skills that'll then go into those enchantment slots. Now, as you know, with everything, there's going to be changes, there's going to be updates. So some of these effects that are there in the beta might change over time. So please keep note of that. So let's keep things moving along here, and let's talk about skills and what sorcerers actually bring to the table in that category. Now, when it comes to the Sorcerer, they have a wide variety to choose from. These are divided up into 6 categories, just like all of the other classes that we've done a deep dive on so far. So 1, you have basic skills. These span across every single class. These are low damage skills. They have 0 cost. They're typically used to regenerate a resource, have an effect, apply a burning status effect, crowd control, something. They're borderline useful, and they're mana generators. Then we have our core skills. These are going to be the engine that drives your build and your rotation. These are going to consume resources, it's going to deal larger amounts of damage, and it's going to hit more enemies. These are going to be the thing you're going to be using most often. Then we have defensive skills. These are going to help protect against damage, or they're going to apply crowd control effects to enemies. That way it gives you a chance to escape. You have conjuration skills. These are summoning skills. So here, they're not permanent minions, but they're going to deal extra damage while you're casting. We'll get into some examples of those here in a moment. We have our mastery skills. These allow the sorcerer to really kind of harness the true power of the elements and unleash some high damaging skills, things like ball lightning and meteor. Next up are our ultimate skills. These are those game-changing, high-impact skills that have a longer cooldown, but typically will help you turn the tide of battle. Only one of these can be chosen at any point in time, so please keep that in mind. And then next are your ultimate passives. These are going to be similar to those ultimate skills. Again, they're very, very powerful. They're build-defining. They're going to really give you a choice to flex into what playstyle that you want to have. And again, just like ultimate skills, only one of these can be picked at a time. So now we've covered all the different categories, let's dive into a couple examples from each category. That way you can get a feel for how the class performs and whether or not this one is for you. So in terms of your basic skills, you have Frostbolt, which is throw a bolt of frost, deal damage over time, and chill them. You have Firebolt, where you're going to deal damage and then apply a burning dot to the target. And you have Arc Lash. This is going to unleash arc lightning that shocks nearby enemies. For our core skills, we have Frozen Orb. You're going to unleash an orb that'll chill and expel shards, which will deal damage. And then once it ends, the orb will then explode, dealing even more damage and chilling even more enemies. We have Chain Lightning as a core skill. This is going to unleash a stream of lightning that'll damage and chain to nearby enemies. This one's really cool because it'll actually bounce between you and your target. So this is very, very good for single target, surprisingly, because you can deal large amounts of damage just by having it bounce back and forth. We have your defensive skills. We have Ice Armor, so going to have a barrier of ice that forms around you and absorbs some incoming damage. We have Flame Shield. Again, you're going to engulf yourself in flames, burning nearby enemies and making you immune for a few seconds. And then you have Teleport, classic. You're going to be able to teleport, become unstoppable, and basically shift between locations. And then we have Conjuration skills. So here we have Ice Blades. Remember, these are all temporary like minions that'll be on the battlefield for a few seconds with you. We have Ice Blades. You're going to be able to conjure blades of ice that'll slash nearby enemies. We have Hydra. You're going to summon a Hydra that'll spit fire at enemies. And we have Lightning Spear. Lightning Spear is going to conjure a spear that'll actually just kind of fly around and deal damage to nearby enemies. It's a cool skill. I like it. I like the visual look of it. I wasn't really like thrilled with how it performed. I was more of a Hydra guy, but Lightning Spear was still a pretty cool one to have. Then we have our mastery skills. So again, I mentioned these a little bit, but we have Meteor, which is going to summon a meteor that hits a location, deals massive damage, burns the ground. We have Ball Lightning, which is going to throw a little lightning ball out, slowly moves forward, but deals damage to anybody that gets close to it. And then we have our ultimate skills. So Deep Freeze, you're going to encase yourself in ice, become immune to damage, and chill enemies in a large area around you. Then when Deep Freeze ends, any frozen enemies will shatter. Inferno is going to ignite an inferno that then pulses in and out of the target area, burning enemies, and then explodes once it expires. And Unstable Currents. Lightning is going to surge you for a duration, and whenever you cast a lightning skill, a random non-basic lightning skill is also cast. So just a crazy amount of damage there. I love it. I love like kind of like gamble, like gambit style skills. So that one I'm really looking forward to using. Next up for ultimate passives, we have Shatter. So after freeze expires, enemies will explode and take extra damage. Veer's Mastery, which is going to cause close enemies to take more damage from shock skills, but they'll also deal less damage to you. And Sue's Ferocity. You're going to deal extra burning damage to enemies above 50% health and increased pyromancy skill damage to enemies below 50% health. So that's sort of a quick look at all of the different skills that are available to the Sorcerer, but overall, looking at this, the Sorcerer is the ultimate caster. It gives players the ability to deal massive amounts of damage, escape danger with movement skills, and control the battlefield. So the question is, what do you think? Is the Sorcerer the right class for you? What'd you think about it in the beta? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you like Diablo content, please consider liking and subscribing. Outside of that, thank you so much for watching. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.